Hi, I'm Michelle Chalfant, psychotherapist, holistic life coach, and human just like you, learning to navigate life's challenges. With over 25 years experience, I teach people how to get healthy using the adult chair model. The adult chair model is where simple psychology meets grounded spirituality, and it teaches us how to become healthy adults. From anxiety and depression to codependency and relationship issues, you can use the adult chair for just about anything. Each week, I share practical tips, tools, and advice from myself and a wide range of experts on how to get unstuck, how to live authentically, and how to truly love yourself, all while sitting in your adult chair. Welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast. Welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast, Scout Sobel. It is just a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. I am really excited. I think that we're going to get into a very juicy, raw, poignant, inspirational conversation.
I think so too. So I had the pleasure of being on your show, and man, we started going there like really deep, that's my favorite place to go. Having deep conversations, and we were just getting there. So this is going to be great. I'm really honored to have you on. And we were just talking about where you've come from, and then where you are today. Like, you've done a lot, and I'd love for you to share, if you don't mind, your story. I think you have an incredible story. It's very inspirational, as I was saying.
Yeah. So there's a lot of twists and turns and regressions and moments forward within my story, but I'll give you kind of the overarching linear timeline of what I've been through personally. Mm-hmm. I had my first depressive episode at the age of 14, which is where I like to start my story, even though some of my earliest memories revolve around anxiety and social isolation as a really, really young child. But when I was 14, my first depressive episode really hit. I stopped taking care of myself. I was restricting and binging food. I was self-harming. And once my school found out about the self-harm specifically, they notified my parents, who put me into therapy. Mm-hmm. So I started my therapy journey at the age of 14, and it was an interesting journey, or an interesting experience in high school. I took a 500 question test that ranked me flirting between chronic and clinical depression. And yet not really much was done. It was just, I went to therapy once a week. I went up and down. I had a lot of emotional paralysis where I took a lot of mental health days. I couldn't finish my homework, not out of cognitive difficulty, but I just emotionally couldn't get myself to rise to my responsibilities. But, in high school, a lot of it was chalked up to teenage hormones, even though none of my friends were in therapy. None of my friends were ranking chronic and clinical depression on these, psychological tests. They weren't sure if I was going to grow out of it or if this was really how my brain worked. And I'm grateful for that, because I think that it allowed me to have a high school experience and move into the areas where it was definitely known that I needed some more support. So when I went to college, I started experiencing extreme paranoia and psychosis, that men were following me home, under my bed, in my balcony, in my closet, waiting to come harm and kill me. And I would stay up very late, not moving an inch, planning escape routes in my mind. And that's when it became quite clear that my mind was exiting reality and it was creating a new one for me. And so that's when, I had a conversation with my dad. I remember calling him crying on my balcony, not wanting my roommates to hear me. And again, he asked the question, my parents had just gotten divorced. I just moved away. He said, is my daughter just having difficulty with these big life changes, or is something more happening inside her mind? And the answer was that something more was happening. And so that's when I started getting into more serious therapy. Psychiatry was added into the mix. And at the age of 20, I was formally diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 2. And upon that diagnosis, I immediately got on the first flight home from New York, which is where I was going to college. And that year was really rough. I dealt with a lot of suicidal ideation. I went through an outpatient program. I was locked up on a 5150 and couldn't hold a job, couldn't be a gelato scooper, a hostess, an internship, any minimum wage, anything. And so conversations around would I be able to function in society were being had by my therapists and my family alike. And the transformative healing really happened when I started dating my husband, my then boyfriend, now husband. He was a year and a half sober at the time. And he looked at me and said, I don't care if you're depressed. If you're depressed and hopeful, I can be in this relationship. If you're depressed and hopeless, I can't be here. And that's when, at the age of 21, I started taking radical responsibility over my emotions and taking an active participant in my healing versus passively going to therapy appointments and taking medications that they told me to take. I started implementing support groups, gratitude, prayer, developing a spiritual practice, meditation, essential oils, cupping, meditation, movement, all the things. And it's been, I'm 30 today. I would say at the age of 28, when I turned 29 is when I actually felt safe in my emotions. So I point that out because healing takes time, takes a lot of time, but that's really when I feel as if the pinnacle of my relationship to my mental illness changed.
What a gift your husband was for you. It sounds like he inspired you or motivated you even to really, did I hear that correctly? That he really was a motivator for you?
Yes, he's literally just waking up in the other room. So he's going to wake up with lovely praises that he's hearing me say. But, I think that in the mental illness world, many times the conversation around enabling is not had, but that conversation is really had in the addiction worlds. And while those two worlds are very, very different, there is a level of enabling that was happening within me and within my loved ones. I would have a responsibility and tap out because my anxiety was too great. And that never gave me the opportunity to strengthen that muscle and to strengthen my perseverance and resilience, because I could wave the mental illness flag and get what I want at any moment in time.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I wasn't conscious that that was the pattern and behavior, or that I was addicted to addiction, which we now know chemically, that's the way our brain works when we wire neural pathways to fire a certain emotion or chemical response. It creates a big, deep groove. But he was the first person that looked at me and said, I see you, and what you're going through is real, and there are things that you can show up and do about it.
Wow. So, question for you. You went through a lot of healing, and I hear you say, did you start medication as well as everything else that you did?
Yeah, so I have had a trial and error relationship with medication. I like to preface my story by saying, if medication is on the table as an option for you and you are deciding between taking it and not taking it, and the only thing stopping you is shame, then I believe you deserve to move through that shame and get the support and help that you need. And medication is not the answer to your problems. It is not going to heal you 100%. In fact, I had major ups and downs with my medication journey. I was someone that unfortunately had a lot of symptoms to a lot of the psychiatric medication. Many times it left me worse. I had one where I couldn't get out of bed till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I had one where the suicidal ideation came back stronger. I had one where I gained 30 pounds. I had one where I lost 15 pounds. And so the message I have here is that you need to be your biggest advocate in those offices, because many times the psychiatrists, their job is not to sit and really understand you. That's their therapist's job. They're there to really prescribe. Yeah. And when they prescribe, they can, potentially not necessarily give you all the information. So some questions I always urge people to ask is, what are some warning signs that if I experience, I need to immediately call you? And what does the process of getting off the medication look like? What are the withdrawal symptoms? How long will it stay in my body? So really, really getting very clear on what you are putting into your body every single day and what the side effects of those are, in pursuit of your mental health. Maybe you don't want to give up, like you don't want to be more tired, or you don't want to have an increased appetite. So just really getting clear on that. But even when you find a medication that works for you, which I didn't even find until I was 27, wow. It only does 20% of the work. The real work is within you. It really is. Today I am not on medication, But if you are going on, my problem, I think, that I had with it was that I waited around for it to work. And it can take 2 months to work. And so medication is just a little boost that you're trying to figure out which boost works for you. But your main priority and your main focus should be on the internal work that you can do on a daily basis.
I love this. So I want to be crystal clear for people that are hearing this right now. We are not saying to go on medication or off medication.
Yes, amen.
What we are saying is, and I am 100% am on the same page as you have to be your own best advocate. Doctors do not know everything, and many doctors are just pushing pills.
Yes.
That's it.
I've had to say no to pills because I'm like, yo, you can't put me on Xanax and Adderall and this and that.
And I've worked with many clients over the years that have come into me and they've said, here's everything I'm on. And it's like, I'm like, wow, no wonder you can't function every day. What is going on here? So I am not opposed to medications. I am not. However, I am a fan of do everything you possibly can. And then if you need that boost, kind of like you're saying, if you need that boost, if you need extra help, absolutely do meds. But there is no such thing as a magic pill.
There is not. And you know, that pill that I was taking, the medication I was on worked beautifully.
Yeah.
And I got myself to where I'm at because of the inner work that I'm committed to.
Okay. That's what I would like to talk about, because I think when we as humans feel bad, we go, well, I want to fix it quickly. And you and I were talking about this on your show. It's like, I need a glass of wine and I want to feel better because we want that instant fix. But if you really want to do some deeper healing that lasts, because even if you have a glass of wine, guess what? It's that pain that you're experiencing, the emotional wounding that's rising up for you. It'll be gone for about 4 or 5 hours. You'll numb it out, but guess what? Tomorrow it's still there. So this human journey is more about doing deeper work. So can you tell us what was some of would you say for you, and everyone is different. So I don't want people to hear this and go, oh my God, Scout did that. I'm going to run out and do that for myself. But if it feels right and inspires someone, please do it. What was some of the work that you found most helpful for you on your journey?
So my rituals, routines, and toolboxes are pretty non-negotiable on a daily basis for me. But again, it took me a long time to figure out the perfect cocktail of holistic practices and tools that really worked for me. In the beginning, I went to support groups. I think the healing power of support groups are extremely undervalued in the mental health conversation. They are also free. If you go to NAMI, NAMI, you can find free support groups in your area that are virtual and in person. And the amount of healing that happens in a group setting is astronomically phenomenal. And it's not really talked about that much. So that was my first kind of thing, because it gave me a structure. I had to show up Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever the time was. And it was this constant routine in my life every single week that really, really helped me and gave me the space to really honor my healing. Obviously, it's therapy, but it's also finding the right therapist and not necessarily looking for a therapist to validate all of your thoughts, behaviors, and feelings and actions, but that really push you to go a level deeper. For me, I started with gratitude, which 10 years ago was not a thing. I found it in a book in Barnes and Noble in the self-help aisle, which was like a weird aisle to walk down.
Yeah.
So there's gratitude. For me, the thing that really drove it home personally is my spiritual relationship and my spiritual awakening. So that looks like consistent prayer and meditation. For me, it's a lot of alone time. It's a lot of boundaries around social life. It's getting 8.5 hours no matter what every single night. It's not looking at my phone for the first 2 hours of the day. It's journaling every single morning, first thing, stream of consciousness for 20 to 30 minutes. It's doing 10 to 15 to 20 minutes of movement, 10 to 15 minutes of daily meditation, eating right, engaging in nourishing rest. So I think that oftentimes, you were just talking about how you grab the glass of wine or you grab the shopping trip or what it is. I think that we also don't understand that scrolling on Instagram and binging Netflix does that same thing for us. And so when we're not working, what can we do to fill our cup up? Is it taking a walk? Is it taking a bath? Is it cooking dinner with some bossa nova playing? And it's also a consistent monitoring of my thoughts. So today I have a really, really great inner critic. I have a really great inner dialogue going on. And that's because I plant the thoughts and the beliefs that I want to be true for my life. So I say things in the morning to myself like, I am competent, I am powerful, I am abundant, I am safe in my emotions. And there's also, I think one of my biggest breakthroughs came from accepting and not resisting. I used to wake up and just feel so fucking tired that I have to do all this to stay at a baseline. I really did. I was throwing an inner tantrum and I was playing the victim of, why do I have to go through all this? Why can't I stay up late with my friends and go out partying and, just wake up and look at my phone and go to Facebook and Instagram first thing? Why do I have to take such care of my body and my mental health so that I can just be a functioning member of society? And that narrative and that questioning doesn't help anyone. So if you're struggling with anything, I really believe that your healing is behind that resistance of taking action. And when you can move through resistance and practice acceptance is really when your healing starts to transform. So accepting that the human experience is painful, challenging, and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And accepting that beauty and strength and your dream life, your purpose, whatever it is you have in your mind that you want to be, is on the other end of pain. You have to walk through discomfort and challenging moments to get what you want in this lifetime. And the minute you can accept and just move away from resistance is the minute you gear up, you suit up, you feel strong, and you do the things you need to do.
I love that. I really want to be like, yeah, amen, 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 like the whole time. I love, gosh, that was so beautifully said. Acceptance is also, by the way, not liking it. People get that so confused. Acceptance doesn't mean you freaking like it.
No, you don't have to like it. I don't like it when my body's pulsating with anxiety, but I accept it as something that's happening to me because it is happening to me. And I find that so much of our human suffering is experiencing an emotion or an uncomfortable position and resisting it. That is literally like adding fuel to a fire. And all of a sudden you are in pain, but you are the one causing yourself to suffer.
Yeah. And I like what you said earlier. You said along your healing journey, did you say radical response? I took radical responsibility for my emotions.
Yes.
I love that. Tell us about that.
I think it's just a fact of how we get through this life. We cannot blame external circumstances or others or our genetic makeup or any part of what we were born into and cannot change. That doesn't mean that there are extremely systematic oppressions and things that we as a collective can work to destabilize and rebuild together. But in that rebuild of the things that you're upset that you were born into, you have to accept that these are the cards that you were dealt in many ways. So for me, that looks like I was born with a mental illness that wiped my life out. Sitting here and not taking ownership over it, blaming my parents, blaming my child chair stage for how my adult chair and adolescent chair came out, that's actually not going to get me towards healing. Those things might be true, by the way.
Yeah.
Someone else could have done something to you that has caused a trauma in your life where you are at now. However, you are not going to heal if you just point the finger at someone else. I am not saying that those things aren't real and they don't exist, and we should work to tear some of those systems down of the trauma that has happened to us. But focusing on the external circumstance, the external event, the genetic mental illness that you were given doesn't actually get you closer to healing. And my entire message is, how do I get you closer to living a life where you feel happy and fulfilled? It's not by negating what you went through or negating your situation, but it's about not putting the emphasis on blaming the external and really focusing on what you can control, which is your internal.
Right on the same page as you, girl. Let me just tell you, it's so powerful, because you now, after really finding your way through healing, right? And again, I don't even like the word healing because it implies that we're broken. I don't well, even saying that, but I know most people relate to the word healing. But you spent
Yeah.
all these years really working with yourself to find really your balance, how you can live in this world as a functioning, healthy adult, right? Um, you went on to then even start a company. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that journey.
So when I was 22, actually, and I think I might have enrolled in like one community college class at that point to just try to figure out how to get my life back on track and hold
Mhm.
responsibility.
Yeah.
I was sitting with a friend and I just had this idea come into my mind. And I said, do you want to start a magazine? Because magazines and editorial were always my childhood dream to work within,
Mhm.
but I couldn't hold an internship at a couple of them because of my mental illness. She said yes. And it was going to be an arts and crafts project. We were going to print it at Kinko's and pass it out to our friends. And suddenly something in my mind completely shifted and a light bulb went off and I experienced an energy, call it mania, whatever. I just went. All of a sudden, printing it
Mm.
at Kinko's wasn't good enough, and I needed to print it at the top printer in town.
Mhm.
So I got all these meetings, and then I got a $10,000 quote, and then I started a Kickstarter. And now all of a sudden, I'm putting together this magazine. The second issue, a national distributor picked us up to be in all newsstands. And the third issue, Barnes & Noble emailed me to pick up the magazine, which they sold in all of their locations. And we had the musician Halsey on the cover. And so I tell that
Wow.
story. Yeah, I tell that story because it wasn't that I couldn't function. It was just that I needed a specific framework for my passion to flow through.
Mhm.
And that's how I landed in entrepreneurship. And that's how eventually I moved through many iterations of my career, and started Scouts Agency when February 2019, because I had started OKSIS podcast with my sister. And now I host my own podcast, the Emotional Entrepreneur Podcast, which you were a guest on.
Mhm.
And I have a book and I run a team of 5. But it's because I found a framework where I felt comfortable in, where I felt like I thrived. And so if someone's listening to this and they feel like they're in a rut and they feel as if the options available to them, they don't understand why it's not lighting them up, you're not the problem. It's the option that's the problem. And you get to
Mm.
create a different option for yourself, whether that's entrepreneurship, whether that's being a content creator, whether that's climbing the corporate ladder, right? It's literally whatever option lights your soul up. And you don't have to just look at the 3 options that feel closest to you and settle for one of those because that's quote unquote what you're supposed to do. I believe there are frameworks and paths forward for every single person that jive and groove and light up the way their mind naturally works.
Mm. Yeah, I would agree with you. We've got to be able to, though, connect to that. It's an energy, really. It's like connecting to our passion, connecting to that inspiration with what we are to do next. I want to ask you a question because I know that this came up for you. And we have, and I don't think you know this, we have an adult chair coaching certification, right? So I train coaches train people in the adult chair how to be coaches. Something that comes up when we do our one-on-one calls with people when they're wanting to join us, the same thing comes up. It is some kind of fear, whether it be, I'm fear of the unknown. I'm the fear that I'm not gonna be able to do this, the fear of the imposter syndrome. You talk a lot about overcoming fear as a business owner, but this goes out to anybody, whether you're a business owner or not. How do you overcome fear? What do you do? Because you've had a ton of it dished at you in your lifetime. So what do you do with fear?
I invite people who are experiencing fear in their life, and the fear is so great that they are not moving forward. They're staying stagnant or paralyzed in
Mm.
their current situation,
Mm-hmm.
to ask themselves, what has fear already stolen from you? What
Ooh. Ooh.
future could you? Yeah,
That
I know it's a good one. I get chills every time I ask that because
I'm like, wait, hold so let me let that land. Hold on. Say that again. I'm like, hold on, I'm taking that in.
if you are experiencing fear that is causing you to be paralyzed or remain stagnant within your
Uh-huh.
life,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to ask yourself, what future has fear already robbed you of?
I wish I could drop my mic. So
Because
good.
once you look at fear as the thing that kills future versions of you and kills future potential possibilities where you are soaring and expanding and your name's in lights and you've started the business or you got the raise or you're in the relationship that you love, once you've seen how much fear has stolen from you, you will not let fear steal another thing from you again. And that doesn't mean that you won't feel it or experience it. It's going back to the acceptance. Today, when I want to do something big or expand myself or take a leap of faith in my business and my personal growth on my platforms and my podcast, if I feel fear, I say, hello, thank you for joining. I hear you. You can have a seat at the table, but you don't get a vote. And so when you understand that the only reason you're not moving through is fear, suddenly that emotion becomes the signal that you actually do have to move forward.
Ooh. I'm letting that land. Thank you. That's really good stuff. I love that. Because so many people see fear as, I can't do it. I shouldn't do it. I'm not supposed to do it. If I didn't feel fear, or excuse me, it should feel easy if I'm quote unquote supposed to do it. And it's like, no.
There's there's a part of the spiritual world and the personal development world that says it doesn't have to be so hard. It can be easy. And I believe it is only easy and flows once you've moved through the hardship. So the abundance and the flowing and the easy and the being in flow happens on the other side of fear. Once you've karate chopped that and moved through, then you get the gates to ease and flow. And so I don't want any of this to be easy. I really don't. There's no part of me that feels as if I'm going to create anything magnificent and gorgeous and beautiful and impactful if it's just straight easy. Because if it's straight easy, I'm not pushing boundaries. I'm not growing. I'm not expanding. I'm not getting myself out of my comfort zone. And the most impactful things happen when you look discomfort in the eye and you say, I see you and I will act despite you.
Oh, that's good. I really there's a lot of mic drop moments right here. I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. That was really good too. I think about, and I love that you are someone that really has bipolar disorder. Like I remember sitting with clients and them looking at me saying, but I can't do that because I've got fill in the blank. Right. It's like I cannot do it.
Total opposite.
It's the opposite. Yeah. And do you go ahead? I want to ask you another question, but go ahead and comment to that because it really limits us. I find when we I remember when I was really depressed, I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to get a good job because I'm so depressed all the time and I can't function well. Again, I am not making fun of anybody. I'm looking at how I showed up in my early 20s when I lived like this. This is not a judgment on anybody. It's really a shift in mindset, right? Like, talk to us about that.
Yeah. I mean, I lived in a world where that was my default. I can't do that because I'm bipolar. And unfortunately, it goes back to the conversation of allowing something external that was given to you take more power over who you are and who your soul is. And so I reframe that conversation. I get a lot of women DMing me saying they're diagnosed, they just got diagnosed, and they're coming to me for advice. And the first thing I say is, congratulations, you're one of the lucky ones. Because if you learn how to master and live with and dance with emotional turmoil and discomfort, your strength is unlimited and your future is unlimited. When you, and listen, that mastering doesn't take a year and it doesn't take 2 years. It is a lifelong journey. But if you really, really integrate and create a beautiful relationship with your emotions that is based on acceptance and not resistance, based on active responsibility versus victimhood, you will be able to use it as a beautiful internal compass for you to create the things you want to create in this world. I will never wake up at the age of 40, 50, 60 and wonder where my life went, because I'm so in touch with my emotions that when something is out of alignment for me, my bipolar disorder does flare up. And I'm so in tune and seasoned and experienced in this field within myself that I can say, okay, something's not working for me, time to change course. And I change course in a matter of weeks. That is, if that's not the biggest gift in the world, I actually don't know what is. I have an internal compass that will literally flare up when I'm out of alignment. And then it'll settle back down when I get into alignment. That is a God-given compass, and it is available to you whether or not you have a disorder or not. But for those who do have it, welcome to the most beautiful club. You are extremely lucky.
Would you not say that we all have that compass, but
we do.
We're
for
not,
sure.
We're not great at paying attention to it.
Yeah,
or again,
for those with mental illnesses, it's sometimes it's more urgent to listen to it. It's more urgent. And so that's why I say that you're lucky, because it flares up and that might make you feel like total and utter shit. But at least you're getting the warning.
Yeah. It's like it's like that, the indicator light in the car, like time for an oil change, or there's an issue. It's like when you start getting that, it's like, uh-oh, I got to pay attention. Something's off. Something is out of balance. Let me look inside. What's going on? Talk to us about how to feel safe in your emotions so you can have a purposeful, meaningful, and fulfilling relationship with your life. Tell us about that.
So I recognize that my core belief was that I was unsafe in my emotions. And so when I experienced a hint of depression or anxiety, I would go into full emergency panic state. And I recognized that my relationships to my emotions was very volatile because I had stacked evidence in my mind that my emotions ruined my life. I couldn't follow through with jobs or opportunities or internships. I had to drop out of college and not fulfill that experience in my life, which I loved so much. And so my brain was stacking evidence of how my emotions ruined my life. And it wasn't until I read Untamed by Glennon Doyle, so good, where she has this, I think it's when she newly got sober, where she had this narrative in her mind that she couldn't do this anymore. And that's a narrative that I had been telling myself constantly, because when an emotion would hit, I would feel unsafe. And then the first thing would be like, I can't do this anymore. And I would relinquish my power and control and my sense of groundedness and center at the mercy of this fire that I just completely blew up, essentially. And she said in the book, she would say to herself, I can't do this anymore. And then suddenly she recognized that 30 seconds later, she was doing it because she was still living and breathing. And so it hit me like a ton of bricks that the evidence I was stacking in my mind was the wrong evidence. Because in fact, for the last, at that point, it was, 13 years, I had survived every single one of my emotions. And I had seen fruits of me putting in the work at that point. And so I actually technically was safe in them because I've survived every single one of them. And so I started writing down on a Post-it note, I'm safe in my emotions. I put it as the background of my computer, the background of my phone. Every time I felt anxious, I would close my eyes and repeat it as a mantra. I would write it in a journal over and over. And so and that took months before that belief really integrated, of literally repeating it 200 times a day. Once you feel safe in your emotions, you are able to do that thing that I mentioned earlier, which is look discomfort in the eye and act despite of it. And it's in that safety that we have to remind our bodies and our minds that, yes, we don't like this. Yes, this is uncomfortable, but we are safe here because this is a human experience and we were built to have a human experience. So feeling safe in your emotions will allow you to not add fuel to the fire and really center in, accept what you're feeling. You don't have to like it, and come from a rational, beautiful, safe foundation as to how you're going to move through the situation at hand.
That was really good. Thank you. I could just talk to you all day. This is like such good stuff. Thank you so much. And I'm so blown away by what you've done with your life. And again, you have this amazing company now. Um, Tell us a little bit about what you do as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I am the founder and CEO of Scouts Agency. We are
Mhm.
a female focused agency and we specialize in getting women as guests on podcasts to tell their stories, spread their mission, their business, their services, whatever it is they've dedicated their life to. And then on top of that, I run two podcasts, the Emotional Entrepreneur Podcast, which you're a guest on, Okay Sis Podcast with my sister, and I'm also the best-selling author of The Emotional Entrepreneur. So that's kind of a nutshell of everything I do.
That's a lot. You're a busy gal, no doubt.
I like to juggle multiple hats.
I do too. I think it's just, it must be in you. It's in me for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people need one thing.
Yeah.
I need like four things.
Yeah. I get that. Well, thank you so much. Where would people find you if they want to learn more and want to connect with you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Scout Sobel. It's the best way. You'll find links in my bio to my agency, to all my podcasts, and then you can get my book on Amazon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, my dear, thanks for joining us today. It was a pleasure. And I'm sure I'll be chatting with you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.